Hi and welcome to our three-part series on understanding post-traumatic stress disorder. My name is Charlotte and I'm a psychological therapist with the Wellbeing Service in Norfolk. Today we're going to start finding out more about symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Whilst we go through these sessions, it's not uncommon that what we discuss may trigger some memories or thoughts about difficult experiences you have been through. Therefore, it's really important to consider your own safety and look after yourself. If you're experiencing any thoughts that things are hopeless or feelings of being better off dead or harming yourself in some way, it is really important that you try to reach out, speak to someone and get some support if you need it. On the screen you can see some options of what you can do and where you can go to get some extra support. You can visit your GP or call the out of hours GP number. You could also call 111 for information on local services and mental health. You can contact the Samaritans by calling 116 123 or text SHOUT to 85258. You may want to pause the video now and take note of these numbers so you have them, or take a picture on your phone so you can refer back to them. So then Alex, how have things been since our last session?
I've had quite a bad week really. Lots of vivid memories of what happened to me. I've been staying indoors because of it and trying to avoid people as much as I can.
Okay. It sounds like it's been quite a tough week.
Yeah, no, really difficult.
Yeah, I know when you initially came to speak to us, your GP mentioned that you might have symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. What do you understand about PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is the name given to a set of symptoms that many people experience after traumatic incidents that they have either been directly involved in or witnessed. People develop PTSD if these symptoms persist over a long period of time. PTSD can be triggered if something acts as a reminder of the traumatic events. It could be that something similar to the original event happens again, or it could be something in your life, for example a sound, a smell, or a place which reminds you of the event. PTSD symptoms can also be triggered by seeing other people around us experience something similar, or it could be an anniversary or another significant marker that acts as a reminder. Our minds and bodies remember the traumatic events in all of our different senses. This means that any sensations that are similar to the ones present during the event might trigger PTSD later. Bodily or emotional feelings that we experience during the trauma can also trigger PTSD. For example, if we felt helpless during a trauma, symptoms of PTSD may be triggered during other situations that make us feel helpless.
I've heard of PTSD, I don't know a great deal about it. Isn't that what people who go to war zones get?
Yeah, sometimes people who've been involved in conflicts can have post-traumatic stress disorder. However, there's quite a lot of different difficult experiences that people have that can lead to PTSD. A moment ago you mentioned having quite vivid memories. Would you be okay to tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure, no worries. These vivid memories, they seem to come from nowhere really. So I could just be walking down the street and I might hear a siren or see an ambulance, that sort of thing, and it makes me feel like I'm back there on the day that it happened again. This morning, for example, I was on my way here filling up my car with petrol, and just the smell of petrol, it made me just freeze. I just felt really scared, so I had to stop filling up the car, get straight back in, and I was back in the car feeling really on edge and just looking around waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah, that sounds really scary.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And these scary experiences are really typical for people who are experiencing symptoms of PTSD. Not everyone will have these symptoms, but we do tend to split these symptoms down into 3 different categories. So we've got re-experiencing, avoidance and hyperarousal.
We find symptoms of PTSD fall into three main groups: re-experiencing, avoidance and hypoarousal, which I will talk about more in a moment. Not everyone experiences all of these symptoms, but it's likely that you might experience at least one difficulty from each group. There might also be other symptoms you experience that are linked to PTSD that are not covered today. Re-experiencing symptoms are symptoms that can make it feel as though the event is happening again in the moment. These can be things such as flashbacks and nightmares. You can also re-experience emotionally with unwanted thoughts or memories of what happened. The next way that we can group symptoms is to think about different kinds of avoidance. It is common to use avoidance as a strategy to try and protect ourselves from things that we think might become dangerous. This could include avoiding reminders of the event, avoiding thinking about the event, and avoiding people and places that we associate with what happened. Avoidance can also be from the thoughts and the feelings that can feel overwhelmingly distressing. Hyperarousal symptoms include feeling anxious, angry, or alert. This might cause poor sleep, feeling tense, irritable, and may cause you to easily lose your temper. Other common reactions to trauma include feeling depressed, anxious, irritable, withdrawing from family or friends, and feelings of guilt, self-blame, shame, or self-criticism. We will look at strategies to start to manage these symptoms later on in the series.
I think that when I have these memories, it does feel like I'm back there re-experiencing what happened to me. And I guess that when I stopped filling up, that was a type of avoidance by the sounds of things. Actually, I usually get my wife to fill up my car with petrol, just because I want to avoid that smell, because when I do smell it, it just sends me on edge. In fact, when I'm near any reminder of what happened that day, it just makes me feel on edge, and I'm always on the lookout. So maybe that sounds like the hyperarousal that you were talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And hyperarousal can happen when the threat system is activated. So if there's anything that reminds us even vaguely of the trauma, the threat system can't distinguish between what is a past memory and what's happening at the moment. So the body reacts as if it's happening again. So this can lead to us to look out for signs of danger and feel quite on edge. Does that make sense? Part of understanding the symptoms of PTSD is understanding something which we call the threat system. The most important task for all living things is survival. Over millions of years, all species have evolved ways of quickly detecting and responding to threats, to learn from and increase their chances of survival. Human brains have also evolved to detect threats. We have our own built-in threat detection system, the amygdala, which will activate to keep us safe and collect information from the sensors to detect further warning signs that this threat might happen again. Once our brain notices a threat, it activates our fight or flight response. This response is instinctive and something that we cannot control, and our body's way of trying to best cope with the situation. When this happens, our body releases adrenaline into our bloodstream. Our hearts beat faster, with our breathing rate increasing so that oxygen can get to our muscles to prepare them to react. You can also see some of the other symptoms of fight or flight shown on the diagram. The fight or flight response evolved millions of years ago, when most of the dangers we faced were from physical dangers such as wild animals, which we would need to fight or run away from. Our bodies still respond in the same way, though modern day stressors can be very different.
When we are involved in a traumatic event, we may feel overwhelmed and our brain may be unable to fully process what is going on. The memory of the event may seem to be stuck so that it remains very vivid and intense. Imagine this bin is like a memory store in our brain. These scrunched up pieces of paper represent memories of past events. Once the event is over, our brain tries to put it away into our memory store so we can stop thinking about it. However, when we go through something traumatic, our brain can't always process these memories properly, causing the bin to overflow and us to feel overwhelmed. Trauma-focused therapy helps us to process these memories by taking them out, having a good look at them, so we are left with a pile of neat memories that can fit properly back into the memory store. Thank you for joining us for today's video. We've spoken through understanding more about symptoms of PTSD, including our flight and fight response and how psychological therapy can help us recover. We hope you have found this useful. If you want to learn more about PTSD, please have a look at the resources on our webpage.